Is the Wednesday after the holiday. We had Memorial Day weekend. We hope and pray that everybody watched, listened to the podcast, watched all of our social media tips. I put them all on socials. So everybody's cookouts should have been pristine. Teebs, I anticipate there were no problems with anyone's cookout.
I'm sure no one had any issues and it was fine.
How was your cookout, by the way? If you had one.
I didn't have a cookout per se. I had a few people over. I cooked a whole bird on the grill.
So let me get this straight. You had people over and you had a grill going with various meats and vegetables coming on and off of said grill.
No vegetable.
Okay, well, you still had people and a grill and things being cooked on it. That is the very definition of a cookout.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't a big like to do. I didn't have like a bunch of people here. It was just me and my fiance and a few friends. That's it.
Hey, there's never been any set definition of how many people constitutes a cookout. At least I don't think so. But I feel like that's another podcast discussion we can have with Whoopi one day.
Sure.
Again, thanks to Woobs for stepping in last week and helping us navigate the cookout scenario.
Thanks, Woods.
We're back to our we're back to more serious subject. I mean, don't get me wrong, cookout is serious business, but now we're talking back into the Hollywood aspects of things. And Teebs, we pointed out some articles to each other. And I find it interesting that this comes off of the weekend where Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning came out, and I'll explain why in a
Is it?
second.
Is it?
I'll
Is it?
explain why. I'll
Is it?
explain
Okay.
why.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
So the primary objective is to stop an artificial intelligence from, taking over and controlling like all facets of government and society.
I see.
So it's only, I guess it's Kismet that we're talking about artificial
Kismet.
intelligence. Yeah, Kismet. That we're talking about artificial intelligence as it pertains to a pair of items in various news outlets. Let's let's start off with what you sent me. This comes from Todd Spangler, no relation, I'm sure. Darren Aronofsky apparently has an AI-driven studio called Primordial Soup, and they just inked Google DeepMind in a partnership for their first film project, and they're going to premiere at the Tribeca Film Festival. It's called Ancestra from Eliza McNitt, and this project combines generative AI and live action performances. So there's going to be a little artificial intelligence. There's going to be some live action stuff. And I was talking to you about it earlier. This is not in slight to you, but there's something I wanted to clarify because it was in the piece. They're not making the film with artificial intelligence point blank. It's more they're using artificial intelligence based creative tools.
I think this is the first movie that at least is knowingly and upfront about being made using AI to be at a major convention, I think.
So my first reaction to that statement is this, just the simple fact that, hey, we're loud and proud about it. We're like not keeping it a secret. We're saying, yes, we're using AI for some creative tools and some creative artistry. So at least they're kind of upfront about it. Does that make too much of a difference in your view, or is it kind of like two sides of the same coin where it's just like, oh, we're putting people out of work?
I'm not okay. So, all right, sorry. Ask your question again. Maybe I didn't really grasp what you were saying, but what you were saying is, am I concerned that this is going to put filmmakers out of work?
Are are you? Is it at least better? Does it at least sound better that they're upfront and saying, "Hey, we're using AI for these things X, Y, and Z, but we're still having human control over, some live action stuff, some performances, some acting."
Um, Again,
Would it make a difference in your mind?
I am not a huge naysayer of AI. Using AI in your projects. I am not 100% against that.
Unless it's Skynet.
Well, you've heard my theory that Skynet is secretly the hero of the entire Terminator
Yeah,
franchise.
yes, we did, and that's still ridiculous.
But I think, okay, all I can remember, I'm gonna go back to a time when I was okay. Jesus Christ, this is not gonna help with any of the old man jokes. But
I'm not going to say any.
when I was in school, in art school, there was a very big debate because digital tools were coming into the use, and there was a debate about, is digital art actually art?
Now, when you say digital tools, are you saying some things like, I guess the Apple Pencil and things of that nature back then?
No, I mean like Photoshop and like D graphics and like
Okay,
things like that. And people were like, "Oh my God, you don't even need to have any skill. Like the computer will do everything for you."
right.
And that is not the case at all. That is not the case at all. Being a digital artist is not any easier as far as the nuts and bolts of being an artist. Everything's the same. Only thing that the digital workflow helps is in speeding up some of the outputting processes. So you don't have to scan in a bunch of stuff and then color it and then scan it in again to get it in the computer. It just makes that part of it easier. And there are some other, it adds some things, but it also takes away some things. So again, people were concerned that, oh my God, I'm just going to press the draw button and it's going to draw me a picture and I won't have to do anything.
What was the biggest contention that you remember back then at the University of the Arts? As far as this, like, these digital tools are going to come in, and this is speaking strictly from like academia, but we're seeing AI in academia. Was there like was there any kinds of guidelines from professors as far as like permission to use digital tools, or was it kind of
I
just like
mean,
anything goes?
it was, well, again, like the school didn't have a ton of digital stuff available. So it was basically whenever you could get in there and however you could get in there. But also,
So there wasn't like a strict mandate of you can't use digital tools.
no, absolutely not. And there were some people that flocked to it and took to it like a fish to water, and there were some people that kind of resisted it and were like, "No, thanks. I don't want to. That's too weird, and I don't want to. I don't want to." But see, again, I'm talking about doing computer art before there were tablets and pencils and anything remotely like what we have today. Like, if you wanted to draw with a mouse, if that was your thing, then that was the time to be alive. But no, it did make some aspects of coloring, I'm not gonna lie, a lot easier. I used the computer to do my senior thesis film, and I did my junior film traditionally. And I got to tell you, the digital process, even though there were problems, but the problems were more related to the technology being kind of new. So like things like, waiting overnight for something to render and then it
Oh my
didn't
God,
render, and then you're like,
Jesus!
oh my God, but like that whole thing. So, um,
What's your speaking on like I kind of I
well, hold
look
on, hold on, hold on. Before we get into that, just let me
finish your
finish my
point.
point.
Finish your point. Sorry.
Um, I see a lot of the same thing with this whole AI debate, and the way I see it is, AI is just another. No, put tools make some things easier ultimately through the tools. It's not the
Correct.
tool itself that makes the art great. It's the artist, it's the person that's able to manipulate that medium to do what they want to do with it and get their message out. So, again, am I excited as a creative to have to be honestly? I am, because it's like, okay, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of ideas that I have that were like, well, I need a whole fucking crew, and
Yeah.
I'd need like millions of dollars to make this. Now, maybe not so much. Maybe I can make something happen. So, and with Hollywood, kind of in this transitional phase between what it was before, like big gatekeepers with needing big money and big budgets to make big movies and to get big ideas out there. Even to get little ideas, even to get medium sized out there, you millions of dollars. And if this AI can kind of democratize some of that and make and put some of that into the hands of other artists, like that's super exciting. Like I'm not.
I have a two-part excitement that I'm feeling towards this whole thing. The first part is one of my favorite quotes in life, work, anything. It's work smarter, not harder.
Mhm.
So if these AI tools can help some of these filmmakers do things similar to what they would do without AI, but it would make it faster and more efficient, then I'm all for that. But there's obviously going to be that human element. There's obviously going to be somebody's vision that still has to be put through the artificial intelligence. So there's going to be some aspect of creativity there. It's not completely going to be on the AI. Like, for example, even with like Canva or like Chat GPT, if you're using their AI software, the human artistry still has to tell it what it wants before it can generate the product, if that's making
Exactly.
sense. So there's still going to be that human element of creativity, but it's just going to make it easier to put that vision on screen or on television. Or, and this is my second point as far as why I'm excited about this, you were talking about it, like the financial, the monetary cost that it would take to get something off the ground. Like, yeah, we have tons of ideas all the time, and we don't have these big budget money studios to be putting all this stuff together. But I feel like with some of these AI tools, we could put some stuff together and just like put something on YouTube, like that simply.
Exactly. If Hollywood's just not going to make the kind of stuff that people really are talking about seeing. Now, you got no excuse. Get your butt out there, get yourself
Yeah.
hooked up with this AI and make your own thing. And then you can see why the people that make the stuff is good and why yours is not so good. And
Wow,
then you
just
can
just
shut
just
up.
shots, just firing shots at independent filmmakers.
Listen, if people want to make their own Star Wars, here you
Here we
go.
go. Here
Here's
it
some
comes.
tools. Here's some tools. You can do it up, and then you can see why yours is not going to be that great. That's all I'm saying.
So
So now I'm hitting up everybody, and I'm saying, hey, you don't like it? Make your own or shut up. That's where I am right now.
the at the Google I/O Developers Conference, they included a AI mode in the Google search.
Hmm.
So they also announced something called Flow, which is this new AI filmmaking tool designed for generative video model. And Google says, "quote It provides stunning cinematic outputs that excel at physics and realism." All of these things will be available. They are available to Google AI subscribers as of May 20th, and you can create video clips at about 8 seconds long each. I think people are going to be playing with this, and I think that we're in a new time as far as like creativity. Like you remember when YouTube first started coming out and people started making more long form stuff as compared to what they were doing with Vine. I think you're going to see like a similar explosion of like cool stuff generated, original stuff based off of original ideas, original creativity, and I'm in on this. I think this is a good idea. Like it's not going to replace traditional filmmaking. I don't think it's going to do that. I don't think artificial intelligence is even close to being ready for something like that. But artificial intelligence is like any tool. Like you can have tools, but they're also going to be abused by certain people in society. Like you can't stop that.
No, you can't. And I don't. I think you look. Do I think AI is going to have an impact? Of course, it's going to have an impact. It's going to like a lot of the people that are like making commercials or doing smaller video projects are probably going to get kicked. Are probably going to get kicked off of. They're probably not going to have a job, but I think a lot of those people aren't really doing those kind of jobs because that's their life's ambition. And hopefully, this AI stuff will give people the opportunity to do more stuff. Like it's the same. Look, if you can tell a good story, if you can convey what you need to convey, you can do it with stick figures. It doesn't really matter. Um, I've seen fantastic works of art that had super simplistic visuals, and I've had stuff with the most incredible visuals ever that was just whack. And like, um, just because you can produce something doesn't necessarily mean that that thing is going to be good. Just because all the AI is doing is it's raising the floor, and
Correct.
um,
You've referenced commercials. I just want to point out for the listeners that like this has already been happening. Like in 2019, I'm reading here, 19 there was an unofficial Nike commercial that was created using a neural network trained AI that used 7 years of the company's commercials. Uh, this year, in fact, several brands have utilized AI in their advertising campaigns. Coca-Cola partnered with OpenAI to launch a contest called Create Real Magic. And then Discover used AI in a Super Bowl commercial with Jennifer Coolidge. So, like, this is already happening. It's happening in commercials and it's branching out because it makes things faster and more efficient to pump content out, so to speak.
and again, like it does make things more efficient. One of the arguments that I've heard against using AI is that it's trained on art that was not licensed. And all I can say to that is, I mean, so was me, so was I, a Tiber Royster. I didn't have licenses on all the art that I was trained on.
Yeah.
So, and I know, like, that might be a specious argument, but whatever. Like, basically, it's the same thing. Like, your sense of aesthetics is defined by all the stuff that you consumed your whole life, and but also combined with your life experience, with your lived experience. Now, can the AI learn how to draw things and how to do things in particular styles and stuff like that? Of course it can, but it doesn't have the other component, the lived experience. It's going to make something compelling that people really want to
And
do
just the
with. It's going to need
context.
people for that. Yeah, yeah.
And just the context of a lived experience. Like, there's always going to be the need for the human element in creative artistry.
Exactly.
It's always going to be necessary. Like, you can't ask, for example, this is like a wild metaphor, but like, you can't ask Data to create an original piece of art because he has no real he has a frame of reference, but like I feel like he's just gonna
Data's different.
he's just gonna copy things that have already been done already.
Data has lived experience that he can bring to bear on the situation. And AI is trained to do one thing and one thing only.
Okay.
And AI is trained to only learn a particular set of things, depending on what that AI is used for.
Whatever the algorithm programmed into it is designed
Right.
to do.
So it's different. Like basically, the AI isn't really an AI. It's basically just a drawing machine.
Right.
And uh, there are artists out there. I'm not naming any names, and I'm not saying that these
Yeah,
people.
don't put anybody on
I'm
blast.
not naming any names. I'm not saying that this is better or worse. But what I'm saying is there's some people out there that are really good at drawing exactly photorealistic, one for one, looks exactly like a photograph drawings. And for me, that's like not interesting. So, like, what? You just spent like 15 hours to do something that I could do in 2 seconds just by pressing a button. How are you? Like, yes, your technique is flawless and incredible, but ultimately, what you produced is literally the same thing I could produce by pressing a button. And photography reminds me of something else. Again, the whole art world was thrown into upheaval when photography was invented.
Yeah.
Photography didn't end painting. All it did was force painting to become something else. And that's what might happen here. Like AI is not going to kill movies. It just might force movies to be something else. And
Or or
there's a place
or
for
TV or anything like
whatever,
that.
but there's a place for photography, there's a place for for painting, there's a place for traditional filmmaking, and there's a place for AI filmmaking. Like,
Yeah.
that's
There's
it.
not going to be the best, like the Oscar for best picture is not going to be given to like a walking computer in the next like 5-10 years.
The only like the problem that I can see is my favorite people, the bean counters, the
The bean counters.
MBAs who run all the studios now and run everything are going to be like, oh my god, this is going to save so much money. We can produce something for like no money, and they are going to like fall so flat on their asses because nobody
Yeah.
wants to watch a movie that was written by an AI, shot by an AI, produced by nobody wants to watch that.
Because there's no,
Unless you're showing it to an AI, there's no one that wants to watch that.
and we're huge consumers of like, comic book based stuff, Star Wars based stuff. So it's like those franchises in totality, like they have always had that human element in it. So you can't remove the human element from stories like that and just tell an AI to do it, and it's gonna feel anywhere close to the same. Real quick, can we just talk about how it's like kind of perfect that it's Darren Aronofsky doing this?
Why is that perfect?
Because I feel like Aronofsky, like he has a history of doing like some real like revolutionary filmmaking.
He
Like
does.
I like Pie, Requiem
I
for a
mean,
Dream, like
that's the thing.
those
Like,
that's his thing.
I'm actually surprised that it's not Nolan because Nolan hates actors.
Yeah.
But
He doesn't hate actors. He just hates the ones that
they're not
aren't
his
in his
favorite. They're not his favorite.
the ones that aren't in his personal biosphere.
They're not his favorite things to deal with.
So we discussed some things about the changes in filmmaking. Let's talk about some other changes. This is not related to artificial intelligence, but it goes with our conversation that like things are changing in filmmaking and film critiquing, as a matter of fact. So this comes from Andreas Weisman at Deadline, and this really, I took to this like a fish to water, to use a phrase that you used. Lionsgate, they are staggering their ballerina embargo for quote enthusiastic and critical sentiment. Now, for those of you that are unaware, there is something that is known as a film embargo. And what that does is that the embargo, there are two sets of dates. There's one date for, say, one group of people, and then there's a date for another group of people, and they stagger their reviews. That's always been a thing, and that's fine. But what Lionsgate is doing, the first embargo, and I'm quoting Deadline here, and I don't, as of this recording, this was still a thing that is happening. I haven't heard anything to the contrary. But as it's stated here, Lionsgate is, quote, encouraging spoiler free enthusiasm, that word, across social media starting on May 22nd, which would have been 5 days ago. If you're planning to review the film for critical and social sentiment and formal reviews, you're embargoed from doing so until June 4th. So there is a solid 2.5 weeks where anything you see on socials, anything you read about on X or Blue Sky, anything you see on TikTok, it will be 100% happy as a clam. Oh my God, this is the best thing ever. That's all you're going to see until June 4th when the critical reviews come in. And again, this has been going on for a while, but there has been a lot of talk, and I can see why this may bend some people out of shape. Because what this means is social influencers are going to carry the conversation until June 4th. And those things are going to be resoundingly positive. Now, Ballerina itself, I need to check the tapes on this to remember when the movie actually comes out. Ballerina comes out on June 6th. So that's 2 days after the critical embargo has ended, and you'll get all the critical reviews of the film. Teebs, I have kind of an issue with this because those of you that don't know me, I have a background in journalism, and I come from the old school Walter Cronkite era of journalism. I report the facts. These are the facts. That's it. Here are all my facts. Here are all my sources. Bing, bang, boom. There it is. Influencers in their title. They can be influenced. They have serious reservations. Hopefully, this is a one off thing, but people can be influenced by the bright lights and the shiny stars. So I don't know if Lionsgate is doing this, but they could bring in a group of social media influencers and say, hey, here's Keanu Reeves. You want to hang out with Keanu, just like hang out after the film. We're going to put on all this big production and display all for you. And I feel like that is it's a bait and switch. I don't think I like that. I
Hmm.
don't think I'm into that.
It depends on the studios. Just want people to come see their movie. They don't give a shit about critics.
And I can understand
They
that.
don't give a shit about criticism. And the only reason critics got the mouthpiece that they got is because they were in newspapers. But the reason they were in papers is because they had some kind of journalistic license
Background.
or some kind of journalistic responsibility to like be truthful to the people. We don't have that anymore. That's not a thing.
Right.
So if they want to like just go straight to influencers and say, "Hey, just talk up our movie for like the next 8." I mean, I've already seen this stuff on social media. It's like I just tune that stuff out already. But like there is definitely still a place for critical analysis, and there's definitely certain people that I go to for that critical analysis. Now, are they necessarily, licensed and bonded film critics? Not necessarily, but they're people whose opinions I respect, and they're smart people, and yeah, I think they have some degree of integrity. At this point now, whenever I see anything, I just gotta. I think now, the onus is on you as a consumer of these things to be
Right.
aware of what is actual fact and or what is just a corporate shill and who is actually thinking critically about things.
Who's doing it for hype and who's not.
Right. And as creators, you need to communicate the fact. And like we on this podcast, we will never be corporate shills. We're going to say exactly how
Never.
we feel about
Never.
things, no matter how much money. Well,
We've done
well,
five we've done 4 years of nothing but critical response to mostly everything we've ever talked
yeah, I
about.
wouldn't mind some money at this point. So yeah, get at me. I'll talk up your movie. I love your movie. What is your movie? I'll love it on the internet for money.
Live action Wonder Twins.
Let's go. Ever since I was a small boy,
Here we go.
the Wonder Twins were my most important thing. No, I'm kidding.
But I will say that this does kind of speak to, like we've said before, AI is going to cause something to shift. And if this is something that other studios kind of lean into, this is going to be something that causes another shift, similar to how the review culture has evolved over almost a century. Because those first technically film reviews came in like the 1900s, and they've been evolving ever since. And then newspapers became a thing, and then the blogosphere became a thing, and now social media has become a thing. So this it's just another shift. It's multiple shifts in Hollywood this year.
Indeed. So, I
And
mean,
I think you're onto something where the consumer has to bear some responsibility to what they're spending their money on.
Hollywood is changing. Everything is changing. You have to be more aware. Well, Hollywood is changing, and we don't know what the end product is going to look like. We can guess,
Right.
and maybe we talked about that on a podcast at some point. But it's not going to look the way it's looked like for most of our lives, and I don't know what that looks like. But that means that criticism isn't going to be the same. That means that a lot of the things that are peripheral to the film industry are just not going to be the same, and we have to start thinking about them in a more. We have to start thinking about where these things might be going, and what are we as film consumers going to be doing to make sure that we still enjoy our film experience.
Can I point out something that I just thought of with regards to this? So, excuse me for coughing. We all know that review bombing is a thing.
We do know that.
I feel like, and I'm just thinking this, I'm worried that certain projects, like for example, we'll take Ballerina as an example, right? Because that's what this how this all started. Ballerina, you're getting tons of like positive reviews from like social media influencers and things of that nature. I am somewhat afraid that there will be a ridiculous pendulum swing the other way on sites like Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic to kind of offset all of the positivity. Like that, I feel like that's a swing that could definitely happen.
So you think that review sites will just get review bombed to counter the extra love that they get from influencers? So that's a possibility, but
I feel like that's something that could happen.
But again, that's all they're going to do is cancel each other out, and that means that you extra have to be careful and look to people you trust, people whose opinions you think are valid personally, and like basically we're back to regular ass criticism at that point.
I think now, and you can agree or disagree with me, but like I feel like nowadays we're in a time where you really, really have to be cognizant as far as who you trust as a source for your media and like what people think are good, what people think are bad. Like I think now more than ever, you really have to be paying attention.
Exactly.
And for those of you that aren't exactly sure who to pay attention to, you can always tune into this fine podcast every week. Exactly. Because we will give you nothing but critical analysis. We will do everything that we can to be honest with the people, because that's the kind of brothers that we are.
That's just who we are.
What I will say is that if CCI would like to get at us, hashtags Teebs for Artist Alley, we will certainly be corporate shills and talk up Comic-Con as much as humanly possible.
I mean, not that we're not going to do that anyway, but
we're not going to do that anyway. But like there are some fun things that we may or may not do if Teebs gets a table at Artist Alley. Like I'm thinking of some things, some really ridiculous things.
Wow.
I'm thinking of like a confetti gun that goes off every like 15 minutes.
Every 15 minutes. Yeah, I'm sure my table mates are going to love that. I'm going to be their best friend.
I'm kidding. I would not do anything that overtly embarrasses you in a public space.
Right. Of course not.
I wouldn't.
That must be another brother that I have that likes to do that kind of behavior.
Anyway, Teebs for Artist Alley. Keep it going. We're on social media: Facebook, X, Blue Sky, YouTube. Full video episodes of the podcast on YouTube. TikTok, we'll be posting certain clips. Teebs is doing The Last of Us when we do streaming Saturdays on Discord and Twitch. So get at us on that. Hang out with us. We'll always give you the days and times.
We'll try to, at least.
I'll give everybody enough of a heads up as long as you're going on. I still have not decided what I'm going to do for the late show of streaming Saturday. I'm leaning towards Horizon Forbidden West. We'll see what happens there.
Okay.
But in the meantime, follow, subscribe to the podcast, and that's it. That's the podcast this week. Any thoughts about artificial intelligence? Any musings that you may have? If you have positive experiences using AI for creative genius, using human experience, we'd love to hear them. We'd love to see them. So follow us on socials. Hit us up on email. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you came up with. Until next week, we're going to get out of here. Talk to everybody next week. We're gone.
Days turn to weeks, and weeks turn to years. Oh, I feel for my brother.